as picks bans begin, and the first ban is Syndra away from Jensen.
And if we do see something like carries in the top lane, that has ripple effects across the rest of the pick and ban phase because it makes you less likely to pick a carry jungler like a Kha'Zix. The mage supports we're seeing might be a little bit less likely because there's been such an emphasis on team fighting so far in this season that you need that front line in the majority of team compositions, unless you really want to rely on a high execution, low tank team composition that wins via split pushing. So we just have to wait and see whether or not they can build out the right compositions.
Yeah, those comps are always very hard to run, and so we'll see if you run a tank support, a tank jungler, a tank top laner. Fiora actually respect banned away by Team Dignitas. This is a champion that Phoenix 1 did not allow Ssumday to get, and Dignitas says, you know what, let's not let Ray get it, as C9 goes through the very standard red side bans, LeBlanc, Rengar, and maybe the Camille at the end.
Yeah, the Camille will almost certainly be banned by Cloud9 unless Ssumday doesn't want to play the most OP top lane champion, which I feel like is highly unlikely. That would be the only case we'd see Team Dignitas banning Camille if they don't think Ssumday is comfortable on it. That is unlikely. So they just ban a tank already, which will potentially put some pressure on the pinching of tank tops later in the draft.
Sure. We know he's happy to play Maokai. Ssumday has won his one and only Maokai game, and setting up the top lane matchup to be a bit easier in the early game with the Nautilus ban certainly can make sense if that's what your plan is. Cloud9 need to decide, do they have a counter pick for Camille, or no, looks like not. They do not want to give that one over. No Camille either. Very standard bans for Cloud9.
Would not be surprised to see a Maokai locked in right away by Team Dignitas. They've already banned one of the other tank tops. Maokai can outshove Poppy, who's the other main tank matchup, and they've already banned away couple of the main carry top laners with Camille and Fiora being down. So that would essentially push Cloud9 onto Poppy or Jace. But on top of that, if they don't pick one of those top laners in their first 3 picks, they can get denied those as well. So already, if Cloud9 wants to almost protect Ray, they have to pick that top laner right here.
You can see him hovering over a lot of high damage physical dealers up in the top side, and with 8 seconds to go roughly in the picks. I don't know if Jarvan's Maokai matchup is great. We know Kha'Zix is going to be a really good pickup for Contractz, and that's going to be the lock-in here. The highest profile jungler left up goes to C9's rookie.
Yeah, Contractz had a spectacular debut on Kha'Zix, so it's no surprise that they pick him with Rengar banned. It also puts pressure on Team Dignitas to pick Lee Sin here. Otherwise, Cloud9 can do a double jungler ban with Rek'Sai and Lee Sin down in phase 2 of the ban phase. So nice pressure that Cloud9 is putting on Team Dignitas, and C9 can still pick up their top laner with their 3rd pick after the pick ban comes back to them.
They've got plenty of time to go for that one. They can even flex the Jace. We've seen that one somewhat commonly. There's the Lee Sin picked up as you expected, Jatt. I think no surprises here. High profile jungler available, and we'll see if they continue to match roles, if they let themselves get pinched down in the bot lane marksman role, or if they're happy to withstand like a Varus Jhin ban and go further down the list as Keane hovers his trademark Urgot.
Yeah, you'd expect the Varus right here. We're seeing less and less Jhin, even though it was kind of thought of as, oh yeah, Ashe, Varus, and Jhin are the 3 utility AD carries. I think the main thing that tilts this is there's so much effectiveness of tanks. The late game DPS of Varus and Ashe is just so much higher as far as getting through tanks. And if you play a Jhin, it's basically like playing a mage in the bottom lane. You're not having that late game tank killing ability. So very important that Team Dignitas locks in the Varus before Cloud9 has a chance to ban it.
When I like this at the end of the phase, Cloud9 will let themselves desync on top laners, but they're going to look like they want to grab in the Zyra and then ban away some of her counters. I believe that Zyra is locked in the run of bans now.
And this tells me that Cloud9 has something potentially special for Ray, because we talked about the bans that could hit if Team Dignitas wanted to push him onto something strange. They would ban Poppy and Jace. And Reaper knows this, and he wasn't necessarily needing to pick the Zyra so early, not to mention because they've been able to play Misfortune to Zyra no problem in previous drafts. So I'm actually hoping that we get to see something a little special from Ray in the top lane.
I'm hoping so too. There's plenty of options out there. You of course know that. An ocean of picks. We'll see which one he wants to go for. Final bans to come through. The Orianna ban in the mid lane maybe seems like Dignitas wants to play Cassiopeia. We'll see. She's a high-profile mid laner.
Keane had a strong Cassiopeia game yesterday in their victory.
And that's Cassiopeia banned away. Again, Orianna being the soft counter to the pick. No huge surprises here, but that also now sets up C9 to first pick the Rise. No counters available immediately at the champion. And, you know, as that high-profile mid laner, Rise almost ubiquitous in that role.
Yeah, Syndra already banned. They've already potentially have it lined up, but we have to wait for the last ban of Phase 2 from Team Dignitas. Might be smart of them to get rid of Ryze, yep.
Yeah. Look at us. Jatt's crystal ball, fully functional. Congratulations, buddy. And let's see what we get now as the bans are done. It's the first pickup for Cloud9. Sneaky's got to set it up for the team. The picks and bans are distributed amongst all of them, of course, and the question is, are they rushing the top lane pick, or is it going to gel the team together at the end? And actually, it's going to be Shen, so still going to be happy to go for the tank matchup. Shen in the top lane for Ray.
Yeah, super interesting, actually. Different player, same game.
Yeah.
They played Shen against Maokai with Impact when they played TSM on day 1 of the LCS here, so I wonder if Ray's playstyle will dictate, or they're just comfortable plug and playing a different top laner into the same champions. It's what the draft potentially dictates. Cloud9 as a team is comfortable with Shen into Maokai, but I mean, Impact's Shen is world renowned.
Oh yeah.
Ray's Shen is almost unheard of because he played almost exclusively carries last year with Apex.
I'm ready for Blade of the Rune King, Titanic Hydra Shen. All right, Ray, I'm trusting you to build the right thing, to live up to your name. Now we'll have to see, though. 12 seconds to go until Team Dignitas completes their lineup. Their final pick needs to be, assuming a mid laner, but they have a couple flexes. Nope, Corki's going to be the grab. Nice high damage dealer. 2 marksmen, a mage in the support role, and a couple of frontliners. Dignitas with a well-rounded lineup.
Yep, a strong amount of poke. The Varus Corki synergy is something we're seeing more and more, even though we're seeing a decent amount of Corki mid lane anyway. It feels like it's paired with Varus almost all the time.
Very frequently, I agree.
So, very good combo right there. Now we get to see the counter pick coming through for Jensen, knowing he's going up against Corki.
And that's going to be Ekko in the mid lane again. We've seen a lot of this champion show up over time, but a dynamic assassin to play in the mid lane, always going to be fun to watch, and I feel like that would feel pretty good to play against Corki. And now we got to see as the time ticks down, we can get ourselves another game soon.
Yeah, this is pretty exciting draft phase right here for C9. They were 4 years ago the first team to do the Ashe Zyra bottom lane back with Sneaky and Lemon Nation during their dominant NA split in 2013. Still going at it. Nice that they're able to lock those things in pretty early on in the draft. And not so much seems to change philosophically for Cloud9 in the draft phase, even with a different top laner in there. So I'm looking forward to see Ray in a tank v tank matchup against someone as powerful as Ssumday.
Exactly. It's really going to be a huge test. We saw that Ssumday did very well up against Zig, and now you've got someone who's probably got a little bit more respect behind the name, with Ray being his lane opponent. Cloud9 thought he was good enough to pick up onto the roster, good enough to start against what might be their hardest opponent all split long. Team Dignitas have shaped up to be a pretty solid squad.
Yeah, against the player who may be the best top laner in all of the LCS. But of course, it's a 3-game series that could just be part of Cloud9's strategy to put in Impact the next game. Hard for us to know, but I'm excited for these 2 team compositions. Potentially doing a lot of team fighting with a little bit more global from Cloud9.
Absolutely, and I'm always excited about 2 highly dynamic junglers as well. Chaser and Contractz on the Lee Sin and Kha'Zix respectively. Junglers are very important here in 2017, and we're ready to get into game 1 of our match. Team Dignitas and Cloud9 both so far undefeated in matches, 1-0 to start the week. Only one of them can go 2-0, and we're gonna figure it out right now as game 1 begins. Team Dignitas taking off Cloud9.
Yeah, I'm thinking right now, we are yet to have a 2-0 team in the North American LCS to start, right? It seems like a lot of teams were splitting 1-1. I know we're going to have at least one of them, but
yeah, Liquid can 2-0.
Guaranteed, yep.
If they beat FlyQuest. We know Phoenix 1 ends 1-1. C9 or Dignitas will for sure, because one of them has to win. TSM 1-1, lots of other teams in the same boat.
Yeah.
And we will see. Santa level 1 comes through. Team Dignitas runs through the jungle, doesn't spot much, and doesn't even leave wards behind them, so no breadcrumbs for the gingerbread men to pick up. Sneaky gonna get hit up by Xpecial, hits W, hits the auto attack, and earns a little bit of gold. Sneaky gets 10 for the hit back, and makes it close.
Yeah, we're gonna have to track this lane a little bit. Most of the Malzahar we've seen in the LCS has been after Zyra is banned, so even though Malzahar has been a really strong support early on thanks to the Voidling spam and his passive blocking the first CC spell, it's much easier for Zyra to get rid of the passive for Malzahar and then also kind of win all in. So it's definitely a favorable matchup for C9 down here, and I'm curious how Xpecial and Loud are going to deal with it.
Yeah, it's one that C9 obviously wanted to play, but Team Dignitas did not feel too afraid to play into. We know that Lod and Xpecial were pretty good players overall and decent laners. We'll see if they can do well against Sneaky and Smoothie, which on the C9 side was one of the better power rank bot lanes coming in. You had the Mark Zimmerman power rankings of AD carries, and Sneaky was, I forget if he was number 1 or 2, but he was certainly high up there.
Yeah, he was in the top tier, and he was giving the caveat that Sneaky has always excelled in metas where stuff like Ashe and Varus is big. Sneaky has been a great Ashe for 4+ years.
Right.
So not only can he play the lane quite well, his map play with the Ashe era was very, very impressive.
And I've even seen him play things like the Ziggs and solo queue right now. We haven't seen a lot of that in North America just yet, but it's a champion we've seen in the bot lane catch some level of popularity competitively. Sneaky always a player quick to pick up new champions, and that could suit him as well. Right now, though, of course, a very close game. Cloud9 having the early push lead down to the bottom side. Quick auto from Smoothie, pops off Xpecial's passive, and they continue to look for a little bit of both.
Yeah, so shoved up as we expected. Also, Contractz skipped Raptors and Krugs as expected to run down and get river control. Going to be looking for that Scuttle Crab. Has to be a little careful, because sometimes Lee Sin can also short his route to reach the Scuttle Crab right here, but Kha'Zix quite confident in his ability to duel early on in the game.
And we'll see how it plays out. So as the early game is a little bit slow, we actually got to catch up with Zyra as he gives us the pick fan report from this game.
Yeah, that was nice because so many times...
Thank you very much, Phreak. Yeah, just moments ago, I caught up with Reaper and asked him why Ray was playing in this game instead of Impact. And I quote him, he says, because Impact played yesterday. So he's incredibly cryptic about why he was actually running Ray today. And then I asked him, why is he on a tank like Shen? And he replied with, well, you know, if you're playing in a team game, in a team-based game, he plays a lot of carries. He needs to learn how to play things like tank tops. And I questioned him on whether or not this was going to be something that continued throughout the season. And he said it could be to throw their opponents off. So that could be helping Cloud9 out further on in the season.
Thank you very much, Zyra. There's the rundown. It looks like maybe your predictions were correct, Jatt. We're going to go back and forth. But if their champ pools the same, I don't know how much they're going to get thrown off.
Reaper to be very good at a lot of those children's games. Why did I cross the road? To get to the other side, clearly.
Yeah.
So you're not paying attention. That is why he's starting Ray, because Impact played yesterday. Yep.
Fairness.
Yep. Do not need to force him into giving us more detailed answers. And I do like that they're also approaching this regular season as a growth opportunity rather than a need to win every single game, because ultimately the championship is decided several months from now, and they're trying to build out as much versatility as possible. And ultimately, Ray will never be a world-class top laner until he's able to play multiple styles. So I like how he didn't shy away from putting him on Shen, even against a top laner as good as Ssumday.
Absolutely agree. We're going to see a fight in the mid lane. Nearly gets the stun. Nice juke away from Keane and walks sideways enough to not get hit by the backside of the Ekko Q as well. So seeing the mid lane play out, it's a small farm lead for Keane. Of course, Jensen has already recalled and TP'd back to lane once to refill his potions and grab a couple of rings. And Keane will eventually have to match that recall. Jensen with a small item lead, not getting all that much done. Just pushing up the wave as best he can, getting him under turret. Both junglers level 4, still waiting to find their first moves into the game. And we'll see when those first ganks do come through. Ssumday has now got his first teleport back to get to the top lane. Oh, sorry, his first recall. He'll teleport back in a second. Double Thorn's Ring, though. More damage, more mana means he can shove the wave quite a bit better and try to force Ray under his turret.
Exactly. Ray's going to have a hard time keeping up with the shove early, but there's a gank mid lane.
Speaking of keeping up with stuff, yeah, the flash lands! Just weaves it in! Chaser with the first blood, immaculate.
You did not expect that Q to land through the minion wave, but Jensen couldn't cheat enough through his minions. He thought if he flashed near the wave that the Q would get blocked by minion. Chaser couldn't follow up, but he can't quite get behind there. And nice gank there by Chaser.
Really beautifully done. 600 gold swing in favor of Team Dignitas. 400 going to the jungler. Watch that again.
Yeah, I mean, Jensen had Contractz in the river, so he felt fairly confident about going for this gank, but Chaser was actually just waiting in the lane, gets the jump on him. Jensen's so quick, can't move far enough to the left. If the skill shot lands, you take it in that case. Chaser, unbelievable that didn't hit the minion wave and still hit Jensen.
That is tight aiming right there, but he lands it in the end of it all. Beautifully done. Watching in the bottom lane now. By watching the games, I realized that last hitting Malzahar Voidlings does not give CS, but last hitting Zyra plants do. Probably should get changed at some point, but it inflates the value of Team Dignitas' CS down at the bottom, so even though it looks like +4, it is a bit more than that in the favor of C9.
Exactly. C9 is winning this game. So in situations like this, much like jungle CS, where it's hard to quantify the value of a CS, you just have to look at the gold. And Sneaky is actually 250 gold up in this lane, which is a pretty substantial advantage. And we expected them to win this lane because of the Zyra versus Malzahar matchup. And even Ashe is slightly favorable against Zyra, so they have the advantage across two fronts. But it's quite impressive to be up by that much gold.
Of course, and keep in mind, of course, C9 did not get this matchup by accident. They tried very hard during the pick ban phase. They picked bot laner first, they picked support first, then banned counters away. So C9 in the draft prioritized getting Sneaky and Smoothie ahead. So far it is paying off, but that needs to pay off more thanks to that Team Dignitas gank. Good stuff from Chaser, bringing it back up to a Team Dignitas lead. We'll see how it plays out in the future. Both AD carries able to recall back and pick up BF swords, so no one really pushed that far down. Sneaky just up boots of speed as a result of the lane lead.
Yeah, so that only helps when you slightly outrange your lane opponent. Also having the move speed advantage, it means you get to pick essentially all your trades. Doesn't mean they don't have to be careful, of course. When Malzahar hits level 6, it is an incredibly potent kill threat, as well as amazing gank assist. All Chaser would have to do is come up behind Xpecial as he flash ults. Chaser then adds any type of damage, and that person is dead. There's no cleanse or QSS that you can build for level 6 in the lane.
You can even safeguard to a Voidling or something. Like, it's really easy to get Lee Sin into this lane, and we're going to wait as, of course, Ray's ultimate is available, but Ssumday does not have teleport up to match. So that does mean there's desynced top lane pressure available, which might slow down some of Team Dignitas' push power, maybe gank power. Keane does have the package, though. That might make up for lost time, and will kill off this control ward. Chaser spotted on the ward that Smoothie put down a little while ago, and still going to look for this gank, but they know he's there.
Yeah, I mean, Contractz would be hoping for the counter gank as well. Hasn't been able to make his presence known early on in this game. A lot of control trying to be moved up the river from the bottom lane, since Sneaky and Smoothie have been sitting on that edge. And this is where C9 is going to look to find an advantage, because they've got the double TP as well as the Shen and the Ashe. Really, as far as overall map pressure and skills that can impact the whole map, C9 has a massive edge. They have to make that count in this phase of the game as they're gaining access to their offense.
So watch out. We know that Cloud9 were very good at using Shen in their first match when they played TSM on Friday afternoon. Now a different the same champion, but a different player. Gotta see if Ray's gonna have that same advantage. He can make those ulti plays happen. Contractz trying to hand over blue buff. Jensen, the Q's in range. He's gonna get that one, and there's a quick blue buff in the mid laner, but you're seeing plus 12 minions here for Keane in the mid lane. Arrow forcing the flash away from Lod. Proper on both sides, I suppose, but now Chaser battling, has to kick back Contractz. Hey, damage is damage. Chaser forced out.
And it diminishes the gank threat in the bottom lane as well, knowing you push the jungler out. Although now he was thinking about soloing the Mountain Drake, who takes a while to solo.
Yeah, the slowest to kill.
But also does the least damage, so Contractz,
yeah, he doesn't like it. Not quite enough pressure in the bot lane yet. C9 finally get to walk in, and they've got tri-brush control. But Contractz will complete the recall, refill his health and mana. Maybe we'll see him again soon after he completes the warrior.
Exactly. I just want to give a quick shout out to Lodge for again flashing the Ashe arrow. He did one yesterday out of Fog of War and was able to flash right before it landed. So a lot of that is just Lodge always being aware of the potential threats. And we'll see if he can continue to dodge those Ashe arrows, because if you can, it makes laning against Ashe much less scary.
It's true, until that 5-minute cooldown desyncs with a 2-minute cooldown, and you've got
well, they just got really good at size.
Yeah, they do got 180 seconds of I'm scared, please help me. And we'll see what happens here on this one, as the Ashe arrow is more than halfway back up. Maybe the repeat attempt works here for Cloud9, maybe to get Contractz in. We'll see what happens. Still, continual pushing in this bot lane from the C9 duo. Up at the turret once again.
Yeah, the gold lead in that lane has actually grown to about 370, so Sneaky, as far as the AD carry gold matchup, keep in mind that Varus is getting credit for those Zyra plant CS.
The play again. Actually, exhaust burn. Contractz slowed down in turret range. Binksy takes a lot of damage, and if Chaser could have landed that Q in the minion, maybe gets to flash ult and pick up a kill on that. So Contractz toying with that a little bit, but at least he burns the exhaust.
Yeah, I mean, it hurts a little bit that he has to recall so early, because he only has 340 gold and can't buy any big items except for potentially another longsword. But he does get the exhaust to Keane. I'd still say not a successful gank, because he took so much damage. Good job of Keane to counterplay that one with the exhaust.
Damage is nice, and it means that Contractz is forced to recall, and it gives Chaser a bit of time to play with now. Doesn't go anywhere deep, just takes his own farm. We know the Chaser is pretty efficient at clearing his own jungle, and he continues to have pretty strong farm numbers. His actual gold advantage is 700. Keep in mind, only 400 of that was the first blood, so Chaser is out-farming Contractz in the jungle matchup. And it means that you've got a reasonable 500 gold lead for Team Dignitas. Again, first blood being a significant portion of that, but it's been fluctuating over time. Proto Belt done for Jensen, another move block for him in the matchup. Keane moves towards the early pickup of the Hextech Gunblade.
Yeah, it's very hard to keep Ekko down in farm, especially once he starts building AP. He can ult back to lane, he can TP back to lane, he has strong wave clear with his Q. So, no surprise that Jensen's keeping up just fine in CS, despite dying early.
We will be seeing the utility build out of Sneaky. Jury's still out for Lod. Gotta figure out which one it's gonna be, but it will be S3 for thanks to that Caulfield's Warhammer, and looks like the same. And once again, you're seeing that small gold lead pay some dividends. Actually, Lod's gonna delay on that, actually go for the Hurricane components first, but still looks like he was eyeing the Essence Reaver regardless, so it will be slightly lower DPS early game for both these marksmen, but it will mean more utility on both these sides.
Yeah, and I think another reason that this game is a little bit slower than the frantic pace we had in our first two games today is because of the Shen and the globals that C9 has. It's kind of on C9 to make the first move, because if Team Dignitas tries to force too hard, they will become victim to C9's map control. That's why C9's forcing Drake right here. See if they go for any type of steal.
All right. Clean by Contractz. Lod always goes for the attempt. Very, very low risk, pretty high reward if it lands. But either way, Contractz lands the Q Smite, not a problem. And the Mountain Drake comes through. Cloud9 gonna be much better at killing objectives as a result. And when this game does turn up, these turrets could fall. Keane will take the package with him. The first one timed out and did nothing, but we will once again see if there's an opening to be had. Of course, with Drake off the table, you can really only make a play for a turret at that point.
Absolutely. Keane also opting for the Hextech Gunblade variant over the Trinity Force variant. Seen really no consensus on whether which one is better right there. Can he get the stun?
Ooh, forcing Chaser to flash away. I believe he'd already hopped with his W earlier, so that is a Summoner Spell down. Jensen making a nice move. Contractz, though, gonna get jumped on here. Ults for the invisibility. TP gonna join in. Go with the standing net, and Contractz, oh no, screws it up, walks back onto the package and takes too much damage. The kill given up unceremoniously. C9's jungler making a mistake, but Jensen maybe wants to get back in, not gonna find the stun, and out they go, but Ray lost that ulti advantage.
Yeah, definitely some mixed messaging there, and the damage continues to fall onto Jensen.
Ooh, real close to dying. If he ulted, he would have been back in the damage, so just had to burn every summoner, and suddenly Team Dignitas feeling good about this mid game.
Yeah, because Ray also managed to complete the Stand United while not saving Contractz, so that even gave Ssumday some free time up in the top lane. To speak to the miscommunication there a little bit, Contractz would have been fine just going out, but Ray saw a play where he wanted to go in. And whenever you have a Shen ult on you and you're not actually in fatal danger, the assumption is that, well, he really wants me to go back in. So Contractz stuck around because he had the Stand United on him, but it ended up being the wrong call. The package also incredibly strong, persistent damage, and yeah, just barely being in the brush there ended up just crushing Contractz in damage there, and a failed Shen ult by Ray. That also now opens up Team Dignitas to get a bit aggressive, because TP is down on Jensen and an ultimate is down on Shen.
Absolutely agree. They have to worry about the fact that Ray can teleport and Ssumday can't. Like, it's still just so difficult thanks to the fact that Ray has two different globals. Yes, the gold lead's there, but guess what? Only one top laner can show up to the next fight until Ssumday waits that next about minute and a half to match. But you can see the pressure is on. They've got the red buff on Keane. It means he kills turrets faster. He's chunking it down a little bit. He's finally got a bit of lane control. And here's Chaser, and here's Xpecial, and suddenly this turret taking a lot of punishment down to 1/3, and C9 have to respect the fact that Team Dignitas maybe better than most teams gave credit for at the start of the year, looking good to take down and prior undefeated C9 in Game 1.
Yeah, so many questions begin to be answered in the first week of the LCS because everyone makes a ton of roster changes. Practice is somewhat limited for some teams as they're putting their teams together and coming back for the new year. And even the gap between the last times a lot of these players played on stage is sometimes as long as 5 or 6 months. So you never know what you're going to get. Team Dignitas definitely looking strong, as you said.
The last time we saw Lod was losing to Cloud9 in the playoffs.
Yep.
And then
reference the Pantheon mid.
Yeah, right. He referenced the Pantheon mid in his post-game interview, and now he's back up against Cloud9 suddenly with a new team, and Honestly, the team has been singing praises. I got to run into David Slan, one of the, I think, co-owners of the team. I didn't ask his title, I'm sorry, but was talking to me about the makeup of Team Dignitas. And one of the things he said was that Law's attitude is actually amazing, that everyone on Team Dignitas has each other's backs, that the Koreans and the North Americans, they're all working together for a common goal, saying, hey, there's no egos, there's no one saying I'm the best in the world, everyone respect me above everyone else. They're all playing together. That the Koreans are eager to learn English. They're getting 12 hours a week of English lessons. They play the game in English.
Yeah.
Chaser and Ssumday are playing in English on stage right now is what he's saying, and that's the goal for this squad is get ready to be on the same page and play together and make this game work.
Yeah, and that speaks to me as a long-term commitment, because when I heard that number, 12 hours of English lessons per week, it's like, that really hurts your ability to even play the game as much as some of the other people, but if their goal long-term is to just all communicate in the same language, that's what they need to do to get there faster. And you'd expect it to have a short-term cost. But if they're doing that, and also beating Cloud9, who looked awesome on the first day of LCS, that's a pretty bright future.
And you can see bright futures here as Contractz still wants in for Chaser, but Chaser able to jump out. Yeah, just that 2,000 gold lead still feeling pretty solid for Team Dignitas. Of course, still anyone's to be had, but Contractz certainly not having the same game that he did against TSM, where it felt like he kind of had his way with the map. This time around, Chaser's been doing a good job, but look at this, looking for the backside push on the Keane. Red Smite used, and Valkyrie keeps him safe. Keane saves enough mana to make it out.
Yeah, and to be frank, Chaser's been beating Contractz to the spot almost every time. So, and if he isn't there to beat him to the spot, his laners are being passive enough to avoid the game. Contractz struggling a little bit in that regard. I'm pretty surprised that he hasn't gone bottom lane to combo with the Ashe arrow. That's a pretty standard thing, especially when C9 has the double teleport and the Stand United, because it's just a numbers game at that point. And Team Dignitas wouldn't be able to match the numbers, so just go where the other team compositionally can't match you.
Yep.
For whatever reason, though, Contract's been trying other spots on the map, and C9 is got a 1,000 gold deficit.
It's really worth pointing out as again, I'm going to tunnel in on Chaser versus Contractz. It's still that 700 gold lead individually, and that's despite the fact that you're not getting 700 from that kill and assist. He's out farming, as you mentioned before, beating him to the spot. The ganks are working better for Chaser, and it's overall just a very good game so far for that Team Dignitas jungler. So far, so good. We're going to see how much more they can get. Ssumday, a minor lead over Ray. Some of that being the mismatched teleports earlier on in the game, but even still, it's a map-wide decent feeling here for the gold and black. As Keane's package will time out. One of them did work out, of course. He got the kill in Contractz earlier. But mostly just staying in the lane, farming up against Jensen. Both of them, very high numbers.
Absolutely. Trying to think about team fights in this game as well. If Team Dignitas, because they have the Maokai and fewer globals than Cloud9, they're pretty happy just extending this laning phase and not losing to the double teleport this early, but we're actually getting pretty late in this game. Solo laners are level 13. Junglers have rank 2 of their ultimate. So if this game's going to start its team fighting phase, it's actually going to be pretty soon.
Contractz just burned his smite, though. He thought he needed to fight Chaser. Now it's on a 70-second cooldown. Even though it looked like C9 was trying to set up for the Drake, they can't anymore because you bet your butt that Chaser would have gotten the steal without a smite to fight against, and it means C9 must back off for a full minute, and that's 2 waves of action that Team Dignitas can play around now. And they're trying to clear the wards back out of their side of the jungle. C9 not making very big inroads. That bot turret, despite the fact that C9's been perma-pushing, isn't really losing much of his health. There's just no worries here.
And then you also look at the turrets for C9, and they're probably going to lose one right here. Both the top lane and the mid lane are below 30% health. So first turret going over to Team Dignitas. Yeah, going to help them open up the map as well.
It took until the 21st minute, but the inroads are being laid right now. You can see very little pressure on that one. Ray only occasionally getting time alone with that side of the map. But yeah, there's the converse. There's what Ssumday has been doing, and it's a whole lot more. C9 have been slow to pull the trigger if Contractz hasn't been able to be the one to open it up because of how well Chaser's playing. And there haven't been aggressive moves yet for Cloud9. Team Dignitas looking for a bit more to do. Chaser coming around the wings.
Trying to burst it down.
Looking for the smite fight. Can they make it in? Good job by Contractz. Secures the second Drake in a row, but it's the only objective C9 have managed to get. And Ssumday actually tried to TP into that fight and then canceled. So once again, 3-minute cooldown. Ray has TP advantage. Can C9 do something with it?
Yeah, and good on Contractz for just rushing that Drake and not trying to go for a fight. It's one of the many reasons Kha'Zix has kind of reemerged in the meta. When you're revolving that Q, your objective control is insanely potent. You kill it so fast. So quick rotation over there by C9. Quickly ran away because, quite honestly, Team Dignitas is a little stronger in team fights right now unless C9 can utilize their globals to manipulate a numbers advantage somewhere on the map. Now they got their second Drake though, and that's good for the late game.
And thinking about compositionally, as we zoom out on this game, C9 are running double teleport, so the 1-3-1 you feel like would look pretty good. As time goes on, I feel like Jensen should have a lead against Keane in a side lane. Just categorically, Assassin versus Marksman, I feel like should go alphabetically at that point.
Yeah, they're not going to get an advantage like they would, say, with the Fiora in the top lane, where you're just kind
Right.
of scaling to infinity. But imagine a world where Ray is matching with Ssumday, and then Jensen is in the other side lane with the AD carry support and jungler in the mid. Who is that person that matches Jensen? And it doesn't actually exist once Jensen gets to the really assassin-like qualities of Ekko. Even if Keane tried to match, there's a chance Jensen is able to solo him out.
Yeah.
So that's what C9 is working towards. Team Dignitas is working towards team fights where they're kind of trying to catch the 1-3-1 without losing things on other sides of the map. So plenty of strategy still to play out in the rest of this game.
Look at this, Ssumday trying to work down to the turret. He gets taunted, pulls aggro, literally doesn't care, shrugs off the damage, takes it down, and never getting a single lick of help from his team. Ssumday finally finishes a solo kill on that top lane outer turret.
Yeah,
2,500 gold lead.
it's one of the many reasons Maokai is a popular pick. Ssumday also does a great job to push it in, but he just shoves faster than Shen throughout the entire game, so he did manage to punch it a few times at the end there with his huge tankiness, but most of the damage to that turret was done by minions because Ssumday consistently pushed it in. Jensen!
And they found the play. Jensen isolated, cut down, and Contractz in a bad spot. Exhaust everything they need. There's the kill picked up, and the ulti from Smoothie not going to do anything to dissuade those two kills already going through. Team Dignitas 4-0 in kills.
And for 100% kill participation onto Keane, as well as having the mid lane turret down. So Jensen bursted and CC'd before he could ultimate back, and C9 really pays. Let's catch how this started once again. Jensen was hoping for a bottom lane turret dive, but Team Dignitas was way ahead of the play. The bottom lane was already collapsing on the collapser, so quick 2 kills picked up there, preempting the dive. Way ahead of them there, Team Dignitas, as far as thought process goes.
See, those guys were coordinated and ready to go, pulling the trigger all at the same time. The duration of the suppression, even through the Stand United, enough damage to pick them off, and it's looking better and better over time. Now 3 turrets to 0, all the outers are gone, and still no openings yet available to Cloud9. Chase has controlled the jungle, and all the lanes have been holding up as much as they needed to.
Yeah, and this could not, you couldn't really ask for much more for Team Dignitas right here. Complete roster upheaval in the offseason. Also, a smaller storyline. Xpecial and Keane were on Ray's team last year, so there could potentially be some revenge right there. Just the fact that Cloud9 looked so good against TSM in day 1, and now that Team Dignitas is already 1-0 and starting this game 4-0. I love jumping to conclusions.
I do
Team
too.
Dignitas, best team in the world.
Best in the world.
No, really.
Perfect. Yep. Done. Already too late.
Yeah.
That's been clipped.
Clipped, that is the soundbite, but it's a promising start in this game for sure.
Absolutely agree. Arrow, ooh, quick sidestep.
How many Ashe arrows has Laud been hit by? And he's played against Ashe in a number of games. Very impressed with his movement. Now he gets an ultimate contract.
Contractz in the turret. Uh-oh, here comes Ekko. Here comes the damage output. Jensen can't quite get it, but Contractz sure can, and then jumps over the wall. Turret shot's going to be enough, and he can't heal it in time. And great kills coming through. Sneaky in a bad spot. Ssumday to pick him down. Makes it a 2-for-2 overall. Team Dignitas feeling pretty good, sending 3 down the mid lane, looking for a bit more.
Yeah, they still have both of their solo laners up. So does C9, but it doesn't have the best wave clear because Jensen is off on the side. They're going to want to get damage in. Jensen's going to want to flank.
Looks for the stun, finds a bit, and Chaser running out of HP pretty rapidly, knocked into the air. Jensen flashing out, but they can't finalize the kill. It's Ssumday who has aggro, and his health bar is too big. Actually misses the, I think he had a minion instead of getting Ray. Could have been a little bit more damage, doesn't matter though. Just a trade of damage output. That turret does stay alive.
You know harm done on the back end of that fight. We'll see if Team Dignitas can clean out some of the pink wards that are just, or the control wards that are littered across their jungle here. It'll be very valuable to clear that vision now rather than later. Watching this one more time, you can see C9 trying to make the rotation. Laud, very good sidestep. But C9 wants to keep coming. Jensen has been able to flank around the back as a minion wave arrives. Good placement of his stun. Doesn't give Laud very many places to run. Doesn't get stunned. Chaser comes in for the shield. And it was good on Contractz to jump in there. A little bit of missed synergy there as Chaser kind of kicked as the Malzahar ult was hitting. But a bit of an overdive at the end of the day because Team Dignitas was able to collapse and the Stand United wasn't quite up when they went for that dive, so it does end up just being a 2-for-2.
Just a couple seconds away, it definitely would have saved Contractz. It might have saved Sneaky if he was able to get that spell off, but as you mentioned, was on cooldown. The 4-kill lead remains. Still at 4,500 gold lead, as well as the turret scores 3-0. C9, not a lot on the scoreboard. Ray still having a hard time winning his battle up against Ssumday. The damage output, despite the grasp of Undying, just really not all that high. A little bit of lane pressure thanks to Sunfire Cape, but yeah, very slowly making moves forward. Contract spotted. Laud not quite getting the snipe yet.
C9's going to have to keep trying to fish for picks with the Ashe arrow and the Ekko flanks, because that's really how their team composition needs to work, is they're setting up the 1-3-1 now. That's what we talked about earlier. Jensen down in the bottom lane, Ray up in the top lane, double TP available. So much of C9's win condition revolves around getting deep wards, which is tricky now because they do have that deficit. And it means Team Dignitas is able to keep pressure in the middle of the map, which makes flanking very difficult.
Zara's arrow still going to be dodged away. Maybe a bit aggressive of a shot anyway. At best it hits Ssumday, who's rather durable, but it's a short cooldown regardless. I'm sure Sneaky will be fine waiting for another opportunity. Just sadly, those opportunities have very rarely presented themselves successfully. We still have Cloud9 on the back foot waiting for the opening. Team Dignitas, they took a very long time to close their games out yesterday. There's some early concerns about, there was the Game 2 Phoenix 1 comeback, for example, where they were leading the whole time, never said to actually go for the Baron, probably flashback to the old Team Dignitas days, and we saw it come back as a result. Maybe C9 gets to be that same beneficiary. Maybe the late game still comes through for them. And actually, the split push starting to work. Cloud9 finally get a turret, and Team Dignitas only have really gotten a Drake to their name in the last several minutes.
And it's also very difficult to close out against a skilled 1-3-1 team, which is what C9 is trying to pull off here. COG were really the masters of this last split, where you could see them have the deficits, and then if you wanted to beat them, it would take 40 or 50 minutes. And even just watching some of the games today, Phreak, 3,000 or 4,000 gold leads in the mid game don't mean much.
Nope.
This early in the season, teams are still working on exactly how to close the game, and there's a lot of chaos that's going on as well. So C9 by no means is out of this one. Just a slight deficit in the early game here, and there's plenty of match still to be played.
Definitely a lot of more match still to be played, and we'll see how it comes through. Under 4,000 the lead, 30 minutes in. Team Dignitas still the team with vision control as they look through the site. And no real deep wards to speak of for C9, but Team Dignitas slowly creeping wards inside of that northern Cloud9 jungle. Jensen perennially split pushing. Ocean Drake helping to keep his mana full at all times. He didn't go Morellonomicon, so the pool not quite as high. You can see Keane kind of has to be late to the party to absorb farm, but level 17 means he's nice and durable.
Yeah.
And he does have magic with his glyphs, so he's not the squishiest of the champions. Can survive Jensen in a lot of these fights. We'll see as it pushes forward. You see Laud risk-averse, picked up hooks over Sash. He understands how incredibly scary an Ashe arrow could be, and when you got a gold lead, you have the luxury of buying a bit more defensively. Sneaky actually rushes for more damage output. What a reminder, of course, the right choice against the Maokai. We saw how much Ssumday can heal on that champion yesterday, practically full heal during a fight, and suddenly, Keane, maybe overset it, but just kidding, it was all a bait. Contractz running out of health, kickback, picked up by Chaser. 1-for-0, Smoothie has the aggro on Arrow, also gonna miss again. Jensen wants in, gets the shield, but does he have the kill? That answer is probably no. Pops the Zonia's.
He can still ult, they have to be careful.
He can ult, and he catches on to Keane, but can't quite get the damage. He eat outwards. Still 1-for-0 advantage Team Dignitas, but they will have to back out.
Yeah, and that's exactly the type of game we're probably going to be seeing here. Little skirmishes that evolve into big team fights, because C9 is not willing to group up against the Malzahar, Varus, Corki, Maokai, just massive team fighting. Contractz, just not his game today. He falls once again, and Jensen can't quite pick up a kill on the backside, but at the end of it, C9 still pushing the bottom lane, Jensen still pushing out the top lane, Chaser going for another skirmish.
You're going to see that battle go through. Jensen does have the 2-level lead, but Guardian Angel makes Chaser a little bit unafraid. Yes, he does. Going to jump in. Can't quite get the slow from Gunblade. If Jensen didn't flash that second, he would have been slowed and killed off. So very tight timing there. Keane made the right choice. Jensen looking for the sick play. Ooh, blue trinket. Keane saved his life with that trinket usage there. He wouldn't have seen it coming otherwise.
For sure, so getting a little spicy.
Yeah.
Let's see this one more time. Keane going for it. Jensen can't quite get the stun. That probably would have been fatal if it was landing. Xpecial, Chaser, and Laud all come up to assist here. Contractz just gets Keane CC, but then the fight continues. Shen didn't make it into the fight because Contractz died before the ultimate could complete. Jensen here, Zhonya's with the sole intention of ulting backwards. Xpecial doesn't quite time the silence for the moment the Zhonya's expires, so he's able to press his ultimate. Nearly gets the kill, but Team Dignitas gets the 1-0.
And they did, and that means they remain in control. But this lead actually, smaller than you might expect from that kill score and that turret score. It's only this 3,500 difference that is very surmountable from the Cloud9 side, especially with how some of this comp can work. Jensen just needs that one good opening, and he can get the outplay. Keane Valkyring away. Those cooldowns are almost the same, so you can do that every single time. Quick kill on the Voidlings, and Xpecial gets +1 CS. Chaser does hit that on the Contractz, doesn't want to go for the play. It's a bit too risky, but he can still face check in, get the ward down. The sweeper says, don't you do that.
Yeah, and Baron's becoming a very real possibility for both of these teams. All it takes is a couple picks. Both teams have a Mountain Drake, so it falls much faster. And the death timers are also incredibly long. I mean, we have multiple people at level 18 in this game with Jensen and Keane already hitting that, and Ray and Ssumday extremely close. So we're kind of in the late game, even though it felt like the mid game was almost glossed over with the low amount of kills.
But look at that, Team Dignitas inroads in the mid lane. They knock that one down. 4-1 in turrets. Finally, Jensen does get the split push, but this is a well-played 1-3-1. We'll trade a turret for your turret. And yeah, mid lane 2-2's worth more, granted. It's still probably a good trade for Team Dignitas, but C9 getting the best they can from their deficit, keeping it close.
Yeah, and one thing I like about kind of 1-3-1 team compositions versus grouping team fighting compositions is how the game just naturally becomes more dangerous as they make more trades. Because there's more open space for conflict to happen, and if you do get caught in a spot, it is so much further to run until you can find safety. So this game's still progressing towards some aggression, you would hope. It's incredibly slow when you compare it to, say, the COG Envy game, where I believe there were 67 kills in 40 minutes.
Yeah.
This one's still, though, a much more strategic affair.
Yeah, definitely very tactical, very strategical, making that a word this time around. Cloud9 says, okay, you took the Drake. Immediately let's send our power forces down to this top river and clear the vision away. Scuttle picked up, wards killed off, and now Team Dignitas will have to work through all that vision. Once again, all the Baron hard work removed because they cashed in to take the Ocean Drake. And we'll see if they can work through that yet again. Gold lead 2,500 is actually dwindling over time. C9 actually just capturing a bit more of the farm and slowly but surely catching up in the gold. This lead practically means nothing. Keane always has to be kind of late to catch the farm. Jensen's always the first one to push, and he does not decide to go for that play. He didn't have the ward coverage to fight Keane safely.
Yeah, if he would have gone in, it probably would have been his demise because Chaser and Xpecial were on that side of the map. Also got to point out the double Guardian Angel being completed by Ssumday and Chaser, further solidifying some of their team fight prowess right there.
Yeah.
Just making the front line incredibly hard to cut through, with the main sustained damage just being an Ashe that is yet to complete an Infinity Edge. It is in Cloud9's best interest to stretch the split push out as much as possible until Sneaky could get that ability to cut through the tanks, which would mean Infinity Edge completed, and then maybe even a lifesteal item on top of that.
Yep, absolutely. And he's going to go... My hope is Ruin King. I think it's an underrated item still, and it's the best lifesteal / tank killing item that marksman can buy. We saw Stixay try to do that and only won the game playing a high damage Ashe, and I think it's the right build for him. We'll see if he goes for it. Laud, we'll see if he goes 2 defensive items or just the 1.
QSS is required here just because of the threat of the Ashe Arrow, which Team Dignitas has done a great job of avoiding. To be completely honest. This 1-3-1 flanking team with globals and Ashe Arrows has only netted C9 2 kills in 36 minutes.
And that was in a trade 2 for 2, so it wasn't even like it was just obvious advantage gained.
Yep.
Shen has been unable to find himself into fights. Ray 0-0 and 0. Ssumday, meanwhile, has managed to get into 1 himself. Infinitely better KDA there. Ray trying to split into the bottom lane. How much can he really gain? Ray, by the way, has gone for a locket to further the team-wide defenses. Of course, it's a lot of MR as well, so it's actually a pretty good item up against Maokai. Maybe could have been slightly riskier against a Poppy or, you know, a Fiora or something like this, but in this context, they'll be fine. Once again, Team Dignitas running through their jungle, looking to play the vision control game over Baron Nashor.
Yeah, whoa, Jensen trying to fight with the Shen.
Suddenly in a 1v3, though, Xpecial coming around the side. There's the kickback, looking for the play, gets the stun and a chaser, but that's a Guardian Angel tank. It's not going to be much. Contractz has the W evolve, gets a slow, and now Ray being attacked. He's got Guardian Angel, so it's not going to be much just yet, but it will get burned down. Not just yet. Jensen wants in, gets the shield, now has to run for dear life. Has the ulti still up. Will he go for the kill into Keane? Yes, he will. Pops with the double kill. He was right there on top of it, forgot it existed. And now in the backline, a triple kill. Finally, Clash pulls the trigger, and it's 4 picked off. Suddenly, map control.
Jensen with the patience on his chrono break right there. These fights with the Voidlings and the Zyra plants get so noisy, people just can't track the shadow. And Jensen lands a massive game-changing double kill. C9 now ahead.
For the first time all game, it took them over half an hour, but suddenly Cloud9 are in the driver's seat. And they already want to split push and spread the Baron buff out. This could be so much so quickly for C9.
Yeah, I want to see this one more time. So Jensen pushes up, actually without vision control, but he knows he has the Shen. Package comes in, immediately Shen ults him, so he's willing to withstand. He stays in his parallel convergence, gets the stun, so he has that massive high AP ratio on the shield. But then, as Ray's caught here, he's got the GA, so they know he could potentially last a little while. And this is where the fight gets big. Jensen's been so good about this in team fights, always landing in his parallel convergence for the shield, and then Keane and Chaser just kind of stick around, but with the Zyra ultimate and everything, you can hardly see where he's going to fly back to. He gets the double kill. That's when it decides to turn. Lod gets hit by his first Ashe arrow. QSS doesn't matter because they close in 4 for 0 and the Baron.
And finally, they get that one extra turret. Mid lane outer finally falls, and Elder Dragon will spawn during the duration of the Baron buff, so even more can be gained. Jensen sets up the shield in case he needs to dive. Doesn't have to. There we go. Finally, the turrets are equalized. 3,000 gold lead for Cloud9, and they're playing all up inside Team Dignitas' jungle. There's control wards. They're blacking out all the vision.
Yeah, we kept talking about how that 3,000 gold lead doesn't actually mean a huge amount. And we've had the pivotal point in the game now. So with the Baron buff, it's exactly what a 1-3-1 wants to do. Ray is occupying Ssumday in the top lane, but he has all of his global options available. So if Jensen does want to start a fight, it's almost a guaranteed numbers advantage down on that side. So they're pushing these turrets pretty fast.
Arrow hits Law, has a QSS out. The flash ulti, they get sneaky, and he's not long for the World Chaser with a kick to make sure it all comes through. Contractz low, can't quite chase back onto Chaser, but here comes the re-engage. Ulti burn from Ray, didn't need to. It was a little preemptive. Yeah, and he's got to run back down to his lane.
Not the best use of the Shen ultimates right there, and sneaky. No QSS against the Malzahar.
Yeah.
Finally gets punished there as he's trying to siege. Very heady play by Xpecial to recognize the no QSS had been built by the 39-minute mark and shuts down the 1-3-1 right away.
I guess I oversold the high damage build of Sneaky. The risk was there, and I mean, I love the full man marksman
that's why
builds.
people build QSS.
When Malzahar exists, it's a bit of a risk. And yeah, I mean, in this case, of course, the high-risk style did not pay off for him, and Sneaky, well, going towards it now. He's getting the Null Magic Mantle. Next fight maybe won't be so hard for him. And of course, this is why so many bot lane players are more risk-averse with their item choices.
Yeah. At least he died before he could waste summoner spells, so he's got it for the next fight.
Doesn't have the chance to cast him during suppression.
This is huge, though. Sneaky is still dead, and Mountain Drake, Elder Drake goes fast.
Yes,
Will C9 try and 4v5?
Teleport for Ray. Looks like they want to stun from Jensen. Won't quite find a target. He's looking for Chaser. A lot of damage in. 3,000 Contractz picked off Lod already. And now Chaser forced to run away. Ulti in for Jensen. 1,000 health on the Dragon and picked up by Contractz. Ssumday stuck alone in the pit with everyone else. Bane would be proud, and suddenly they're all dead. Look at the kills picked off. The Guardian Angel means nothing for Ssumday. He will be the final kill. Ray slowly working down on the tree. Jensen here to help as well. And that's going to be a 4-4-1. Ssumday just buying as much time as he can. Guardian Angel finally popped. The kill will be there. The Chaser is alone against 20 seconds of respawns for his teammates, and they're already pushing into the base. Cloud9 have already knocked down mid lane tier 2. They're going for the inhibitor itself.
These are long death timers. They could potentially get base turrets, maybe the game.
15 seconds on both bot laners. How much will Cloud9 bite off? It's going to be even more. They kept the minion wave alive. Who's going to take the turret? First off, it's Contractz with the Shen ulti. Looking for the play, can't land the arrow, and Chase stays alive. The taunt doesn't mean much. They're going for next turrets. 2 seconds, the bot lane recall. Back in his Chaser, and he gets dropped. That's another kill picked up. Here comes Lot. Here comes Xpecial. They've got to stop it right now. Can they pick off Jensen? Can they stop Contractz? And they can't. Sneaky takes it down, and Cloud9 gets the comeback in game 1.
Wow, so we knew the game was kind of sneaking towards that late game point, and as soon as it did, all the fights went the way of Cloud9. Really, I want to see that Elder Drake fight again because it looked to me like a failure in coordination by Team Dignitas, and it looked like C9 were all on the same page because when you're forcing that 4v5 situation, the objective is not to kill the objective, it's to get the team to engage in an odd number team fight. And what seemed like happened was all of C9 were actually looking for the fight, and Team Dignitas was still trying to kill the Elder Drake, which they didn't even get.
Right.
So Lod got wrecked at the start of that fight. Contractz and Jensen with a huge game. Contractz, a poor start, but came up big in the end with that steal on the Elder Drake as well as the big fight. And even though it looked slow and it looked like they were behind the whole time, it ends up with a victory 41.5 minutes in.
It did work out in the end. I got to give huge props to Jensen for his split push and being super good. He was definitely pivotal in that team fight, all the damage he got in there. And I know we do have a replay of that fight, of the Baron as well. We've got, I think, several replays to look at. They're going to be juicy.
Yeah, so this is the fight we just saw before the game ended. And just watch how Lod is hitting the Elder Drake and no one is there to peel for him. Smoothie literally walks up through the team and lands a root. And the rest of C9 just piles on him. Meanwhile, the Elder Drake sells 2,500 health. Team Dignitas really needed to fight here, but they were focused on the objective, but they didn't even get that. Contractz then just starts hopping around. Jensen flashes in for the finish. And when you're letting an Ekko with 5 or 6 items free in your backline, that backline's not lasting very long. You need to peel him with the Maokai and the Lee Sin. So we did talk about how Team Dignitas is playing in English, how it's very early on for them, and that was just a failure of communication because I liked the call to start the Drake, but they needed to fight.
They did, and the unfortunate thing to make a joke out of it is Team Dignitas has always had problems just categorically. For whatever reason, you wear the jersey and the major objective calls, the major neutrals just happen to work poorly for this team. And obviously, there's no common trends here, right? It's a bunch of new players, and somehow that magnet still hurts them for some reason. But yeah, that was a game lost on a very bad Elder Dragon call.
Yeah, the game Team Dignitas lost yesterday in their 2-1 series victory was also off of poor objective control. So a very clear thing that those guys have to work on. And you can see, even though C9 was victorious, pretty somber huddle, just trying to figure out why they were behind, even though they were able to pull out the victory at the end.
Yep. Smoothie right now leading the discussion. You can see him being talkative and saying what's going on. Of course, we knew that this bot lane had pressure in the lane early on, but no one really visited the lane. Just not a lot was actually gained from that lead. It was, I think, even the second to last outer turret to fall, I believe. They got it eventually, but yeah, we'll figure out if they can figure out much more to do with this one. We have another replay as well. It's the Baron fight, the 4-for-0 that C9 got, which gave them the initial early lead. We can see the start of it here.
And at this point in the game, C9 only had 2 kills, and it looked like Team Dignitas, this is how you play against a 1-3-1. You try and kill one of the split pushers before grouping. Ray was able to extend Jensen's life, burn the main crowd control from Team Dignitas, and then everyone arrives. But the big play of this fight is Jensen eats the exhaust here, and then Chaser and Keane get hit by that massive Ekko ultimate. And at that point, Ssumday needs to bail because his damage is down. Ssumday had already pulled back. Lod needed to be further behind as well. So they had the ability to kind of put the team fight together, but C9 just outplayed them in those situations.
And I'm actually just so glad that Ekko is actually an assassin now, because how much more exciting was that sick Ekko team fight than any top lane Ekko team fight you've seen all of 2016?
The take Ekko ults back and does 300 damage.
Yeah.
Actually kills someone.
This guy like one-shots 2 people. So, I mean, Jensen, Fizz in the first game in the LCS, now in his 3rd picks out the Ekko, still looks awesome. He's definitely an exciting player to watch. This is a player who's heading and looking to be the best mid laner in the region.
Yeah.
And with TSM looking, mediocre right now, Jensen might just be the best in the role.
This first week has done so little to enhance my understanding of the stat ranking of North American LCS teams, because they are all over the place, but can't wait for the rest of the series.
Other than the fact that Jensen is a monster.
Jensen's a beast.
He is a beast, absolutely. So we're going to head to a quick break, but first, we're going to hear from Kobe.